The WDRB Investigates team has been working on some very interesting stories. We hear the name Tupac Shakur, you think of Las Vegas. He was killed 26 years ago. You don't really think about Kentucky, but there is a Kentucky connection.
There is. Tupac, the rapper, his stepfather is in prison here in Kentucky. And the story of Tupac's stepfather, Mutulu Shakir, it's one of the most interesting stories I've ever covered, I think. I mean, this goes back to the early 80s, even the early 70s. And some of the stuff that we have found out about Tupac's family is absolutely fascinating.
What is the most fascinating thing that you've uncovered as you've read through so many documents and talked to family members?
So I think that the fact that, Mutulu Shakir, Tupac's stepfather, was involved in this heist in the early 80s, in 1981, this Brinks truck robbery in New York, where he and a group of other people robbed a Brinks truck. In that robbery, there were 3 people that were killed. Tupac's stepfather was on the run for years. He was on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. He was eventually caught, but he's been implicated in breaking Tupac's godmother out of prison early in the 70s. I mean, there are so many layers to this, and as we kept peeling it back, there were just so many, oh my gosh, moments while we were reporting this story.
So many twists and turns, and he wants to get out of prison, but it's really difficult for that to happen, actually.
Correct. So in a weird way, Mutulu Shakir has fallen through this kind of crack in the federal parole system. That system was changed in the late 80s, around the same time that he was sentenced. So he's not eligible for compassionate release. And the parole board, which is being dissolved because since the 80s there's been no parole for federal prisoners, doesn't want to hear the case, and the parole board is essentially being dissolved now. So he's got one last shot. In October, there's a final parole hearing for him to get out of prison, but doctors at this point think he may have 2 months to live. So his family is trying their hardest, but time's running out pretty quickly for him.
And you also tried to talk with him as well.
Yeah, his attorneys and his family have said that his health has deteriorated so much that he's having trouble mentally now because of the chemo treatments and everything else that goes into that to try and treat this type of bone marrow cancer that he has, that mentally he's not all there with it. You watch a story where we're able to talk to Tupac's brother, Mutulu Shakir, who described how his father is doing in prison, and the health has just declined so quickly over the last 4 or 5 months.
An interesting story that is still developing. We'll have the latest on WDRB.com.